Hello guys, and today I want to start this long Russian geography lesson with a very important question. How do you think back in 2022, when Putin announced his so-called special military operation, did he expect that in 2026 the Ukrainian drones will control the skies above Moscow, the capital of the Russian Federation? And that's exactly what happens literally every week. And not just in Moscow, in dozens of their regions that are now turned into a war zone because millions of Russians supported Putin's idea, believing in the strength of the Russian army and economy. And now, after 4 years of this exhausting war, we witness the collapse of the Russian Federation, because with each month more and more regions are visited by the Ukrainian drones. With each month there are more and more cancelled flights, more and more air raid alerts, and bigger and bigger problems with the federal budget of the Russian Federation. And even during this Munich conference, the main topic was a number of aims that Putin failed in his special military operation, literally all of them. Beginning with inability to get all of Ukraine as he wanted, inability to get the territories he promised to his population, I'm talking about Donetsk and Luhansk regions, great losses among the soldiers of the Russian army, and the fact that Finland and Sweden joined NATO, even though Moscow claimed their task is to prevent NATO expansion. So Putin is a classical loser, and now more and more Russians blame him for these problems. So let's discuss how they react to the Ukrainian drones visiting dozens of Russian regions and the capital of the Russian Federation so often, and more to come in 2026. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and if you want to see the defeat and demilitarization of Russia that has already started and that is the only working peace plan, subscribe and share these videos to spread the truth. So today, Moscow and other regions of the Russian Federation experience heavy attacks on the legitimate military sites. And I think it is super important to keep enumerating the regions that are now an active war zone. Something that was totally unbelievable in 2022 became the so-called new normal for this last days of Putin's regime. Because he promised stability, he promised security, and Russia was way safer before the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. And I believe it's super important to see the change in the course of this war, to make proper decisions. In 2022, everybody thought Ukraine would collapse. In 2026, more and more economists, military experts predict the fall of the Putin's regime, serious problems for the Russian Federation. And everyone agrees, at least on that Munich conference, on the fact that Putin failed strategically. So let's begin with explosions in Moscow, dozens of drones there. Tomorrow we will have more details, but their mayor Sobyanin kept posting these very panicking messages. I wonder how did Moscovites receive them, taking into account that Telegram channels aren't working anymore because the Kremlin is hiding the truth about more and more problems accumulating literally in every sphere of their life. Traditionally, airports were closed, Vnukovo, Domodedovo, thousands of people had to wait for hours until the Ukrainian drones were doing their job in the skies above the Russian capital. Just think about this. And I believe this will bring more understanding between the mayor of Moscow and the governor of the Belgorod region, Gladkov, who honestly became one of the strongest opponents of the Kremlin, because Putin constantly betrays more and more of the Russian regions that experience problems because they are a war zone now, like Belgorod and Kursk. They stopped paying money to support people who were influenced by the negative consequences of this war returning back to Russia. They do not care about the importance of air defense for these regions, and that's why Gladkov spoke openly about the priorities. First, air defense for Belgorod, then attacks on Kyiv, and many claimed he's a traitor, but now I think that mayor of Moscow understands what the Belgorod governor was whining about. Similar problems in Kursk as I record this video, there are reports of attacks in other regions, which is important because this shows the size of the problem and the vulnerability of Russia when its size actually plays against it. They do not have enough air defense systems. We keep neutralizing them on the temporarily occupied regions of Ukraine, like in Crimea, in Zaporizhia, Donetsk regions. They keep bringing them to the front lines. We keep destroying them. And soon there will be only systems left next to Putin's bunkers, a good way to identify where the Kremlin goblin is hiding. So today, 123 drones visited other regions like Bryansk. And after that visit, the region experiences a blackout. Kaluga, Tula, Kursk, Oryol, Belgorod, and that very desperate governor of Belgorod actually confirmed that they do not expect central heating in their homes until April. Well, in April you don't need it anymore. Also Vladimir and some other regions, we are talking just about one day in Russia. You may say, but Ukraine suffers greatly from the Russian attacks. Yes, this is something that we did not choose. But we could have lost this war in 2022, in 2023, but we did the country. We grew stronger. We developed the network of partners and friends. We became militarized more than ever, which destroys one of Putin's aim. We are super united. People are looking into their cultural heritage, the learning traditions, habits. Those people who were completely indifferent to Ukrainian culture or history now are very much into it. Another aim of Putin's regime ruined. And of course, the very fact that now everybody sees this violent criminal nature of Putin's regime. And people who were not supportive of Ukraine are now on our side because they realize that such regimes as the Russian one, Chinese, Iranian, North Korean actually impose great danger on literally every part of the world. So more Russian airports closed, more people receive these direct messages, not only of air raid alerts. Still, I wonder how without Telegram blocked. And also the message that Russia is losing. And Russia is losing strategically. That's exactly what Stubb, the president of Finland, said when he reminded the world that first Putin pushed Finland and Sweden to join the NATO. Thumbs up for that and congratulations to these beautiful nations. Second, most of the Ukrainian territory that Russia occupies were actually invaded by them back in 2014. And now, during 2 extremely deadly years for the Russian army, with more than 1 million lost, they got less than 1%. Just think about this. When analyzing, evaluating this war, whether Ukraine has cards or not. It's a very bad comparison, but Russia is a house of cards that has already started collapsing. And that's exactly what people are talking about inside Russia. When more and more regions go out on protests and this disagreement between Moscow, far east, far north become more and more evident, and the dissolution of Russia does not seem as very distant now for Russians. And if you want to know what they discuss inside the country, how they feel about the future of the Russian Federation, the future of Tatarstan, Bashkortostan, Sakha, which is a republic equal in size to India. Can you imagine that? Watch my video on Anna Danilchuk channel exactly about the rise of protest in 2025, which is literally a record-breaking year. And it imposes more threats on Putin's regime. Because 2026, financially, socially, politically, diplomatically, will be even worse for the Kremlin. Subscribe to witness all of that together. Also follow me on Substack. Today a new newsletter came out. X, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, Discord, all the links in the description, same as the link to our merch shop where we have -14 on everything. And I'm forever grateful when you choose some product and officially become such cultural ambassadors of Ukraine, reminding the world about our fight and the need to defeat Russia, that it is the only working peace plan. Thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channels, but most importantly, thank you for standing with Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!